Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Cotner. I'm the chairman of the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame. I'd like to welcome you all here this evening. The Hall of Fame started as a dream of my former co-chairman Bill Chaves back in late 1995. I still remember getting a call from Billy in the summer of 95 saying, what do you think of setting up something to honor players, coaches, professional athletes, and so forth from our town? We both grew up here. From that vision, Billy took it one step further. He went to the town of Enfield just to request the use of the town seal. And then the following January, we formed a committee of 15 people in 1996. It's been great ever since. Our committee works hard. It's not a 1, 2, 3 month operation, it's a 12-month operation. So it's a team pulling together to be here and to bring all of you here, and we thank you. Over the years, we've had book signings with Rebecca Lobo, helping her charity, Women's Sports Foundation. We've had in Peter King, who was an honoree, and we had an evening with him. He's the head sports writer for CNN, SI, and Sports Illustrated. And also, earlier in the summer, we did a fundraiser with Karen Scavato. And for any of you who don't know, Karen Scavato is from Enfield. She's our 18-year-old Olympic athlete who just competed in Sydney. She graduated from high school in January, and I know from talking to her, since January till August, I have to believe she's been in 15 or 16 different countries, traveling, competing, practicing, and there's a lot of dedication there. So, although Karen didn't win the medal this year, there's always a couple years from now. So give her a warm welcome when she returns in a few weeks. People often ask me, do we ever going to run out of names? I have to say no. We have a list of about 250 individuals on the list, and it grows by 25 to 50 each year of serious candidates. I give a lot of credit to my committee. Again, it's a lot of hard work in putting it together. There's a lot of volunteerism in the town through support of the town of Enfield, as well as all the sponsors that you may see in the brochures. So I'd like you to patronize them where you can. Also, thank you to Cox Communications, they're donating their services to videotape this. And I'll talk to Walt after to see when these will be aired. Certainly you can call Cox and Enfield to see when it will be aired. And for all the Hall of Famers, I'll make them a copy of the tape and get it out to them. Now it's my honor and privilege to introduce the MC for the evening, Kevin Nathan. He's the sports anchor and reporter for NBC Connecticut News. Kevin joined Channel 30 in August of 1996. He's won 2 Emmy Awards for sports reporting. He's also received 2 other Emmy nominations and won 3 Associated Press Awards. Before joining Channel 30, Kevin worked in Charleston, West Virginia, Martinsburg, West Virginia, as a sports director. Kevin graduated from Dickinson College with a degree in English. He's an accomplished athlete. We're lucky to have him here. Throughout his career, he played football, and he also captained the baseball team. Kevin's originally from New Hampshire, and we're proud in welcoming Kevin's first trip to the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame. Let's give him a round of applause.
It's a great honor to be here tonight. Usually when I come out to functions like this, the first thing I get is, when are you going to come out and do a story on Enfield? We've got this great athlete in Enfield, and the person never gets on the news. I can assure you that Karen Scavato's got more airtime than anyone, including Jerry Brooks and Joanne Nesty the last 2 weeks on NBC 30. First time I heard of Enfield, Connecticut was 1984. I was at prep school in Massachusetts, and my buddies on the hockey team said, you gotta come to the game today. We're playing Deerfield, and they got this kid, Janny. Janny? Girl, guy, Janny? Go to the game, and Craig Janny, who's originally from Enfield, scored a goal and had 6 assists. He was the greatest high school hockey player I've ever seen. My next Enfield encounter was meeting a guy named Mike Whalen, who was inducted into the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame last year. And it was a great regret of mine that I couldn't be here for the induction. He's become one of my best friends. This guy is a football coach at Williams College. He was an All-American wrestler and football player at Wesleyan, and he's one of the best fathers you will ever meet. And if he's any indication for the kind of people that you meet from Enfield, it's a pretty darn good town. I want to start off tonight by introducing the Deputy Mayor, Peter Falk, for greetings on behalf of the town of Enfield.
Good evening. On behalf of the mayor and the entire community, I would like to welcome you all here tonight, especially the award recipients, their families, friends, and invited guests. The mayor was unable to attend because of a prior commitment, but she asked me to say a few words in her place. She does send her best wishes to the inductees for their outstanding accomplishments. It's truly an honor for me to share this special event with all of you, and I would like to commend the Hall of Fame committee for all their efforts in recognizing the athletes of Enfield and for putting on this banquet every year since 1996. The group's enthusiasm continues to grow, and their dedication is an inspiration to all. I would also like to congratulate tonight's award recipients. I know being involved in athletics is a very time-consuming and demanding endeavor, and so often their accomplishments go unrecognized. So this is our chance to recognize those things that have gone unrecognized for so long. And I just wanted to say that the accomplishments are greatly appreciated, and all the recipients are certainly role models for everyone here in the community. I know that we're here to celebrate the accomplishments of the class of 2000, but we currently have a shining star in Sydney, Australia. She has made us all very proud in making the Olympic archery team and for her great showing in the games. I know it's been brought up already, but I think it's very important. Let's have another round of applause for Karen Scabato. Very good, thank you. That was nice. I have a proclamation here from the mayor. It's a proclamation honoring the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2000. Whereas the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame was established in 1996 to recognize past and present individuals who have made a significant athletic contribution to the town of Enfield. And whereas the class of 2000 inductees to the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame consist of Joseph Basewitz, John Blomstrand, Christine Coughlin, Robert Keller, Joseph Chris, Peter Lamanna, and William Teed. And whereas the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame Committee will also honor Michael Jones with the George Daly Special Recognition Award. And whereas in the team category, the 1948 Enfield High football team Class M champions will be honored for special team accomplishments. And whereas inductees and award recipients will be honored at the 5th annual induction ceremony to be held September 22nd, 2000 at the Radisson Hotel in Enfield. Now therefore it be proclaimed that I, Mary Lou Strom, on behalf of the town of Enfield and its citizens, do hereby congratulate the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame Class of 2000 inductees and the George Daly Special Recognition Award recipient and the team honorees. Be it further resolved that I hereby declare September 22nd, 2000 to be Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame Day in the town of Enfield. This is signed by Mary Lou. Once again, I'd like to thank you all and hope that you have a nice evening, and I'll turn it back over to Kevin.
Thank you very much. Mike Kottner, I should mention, talk about organization. I mean, he calls me more than my wife. I mean, unbelievable. Emails, phone calls, telegrams, packages. I mean, this guy, I need him as a sports producer. I actually get the scores right at night. Mike's done a fantastic job organizing this. But I think he'd be the first to tell you that there's somebody who's not here tonight who is very instrumental in what we're experiencing this evening. Talking about the late George Daly. He was an original member of the Hall of Fame Committee in 1996 and was instrumental in researching many of the biographies that ultimately became the biographies of Hall of Famers. Tragically, George passed away suddenly just 3 days before the first induction ceremony. In George's honor, there's the George Daly Award, which we're going to give out in a few minutes, but first I'd like his wife, Mrs. Elena Daly, to come up and say a few words.
My family and I wish to extend our sincere thanks and gratitude to the Hall of Fame Committee for the annual Special Recognition Award established in George's memory. He cared deeply for his family and was committed and dedicated to this community. He was supportive of many charities and was passionate about sports. 4 years ago, he diligently researched over 200 potential nominees for the first induction class of '96. He was so proud to be a member of the Hall of Fame. I know in my heart he is here with us tonight. He left us with many gifts, his wonderful sense of humor, his love and devotion to one another. I want to extend my sincere congratulations to all of the inductees here tonight. I am especially honored to be able to present the George Daly Special Recognition Award. Thank you.
This year's George Daly Award is not only an incredible athlete, this person is just an incredible human being. My stepdad has one arm, lost it in a car accident when he was 18. Been my role model my whole life. So when I talk about somebody like our George Daly Award winner we're about to introduce, you understand why this is such a special person. And I will find his biography. Michael Jones. Michael's a Paralympic cyclist. He's a 1975 graduate of Enrico Fermi High School, where he competed in cross country and track. In 1983, his running career ended when he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, which required surgery and months of radiation. Since it was too painful to continue running, Jones turned to cycling. Always an endurance athlete, he excelled at climbing and competed in New England and in the mountains around Salt Lake City. In 1993, his life was threatened again. What he thought was the flu turned out to be a septic infection, which sent him into a month-long coma. He survived. But he lost most of both feet and 6 fingertips. December of that same year, he was hospitalized again for heart surgery to repair damage caused by radiation. Within weeks of his heart surgery, Jones was on the road again, training for the U.S. disabled cycling team. That first year back, he won a pair of bronze medals in the national championships and was ranked the #1 double amputee in the United States. In 1996, Jones was named alternate to the Paralympic team and competed in Atlanta. He also set a U.S. record in the flying 200 at the Paralympic Olympic trials. Jones has finished in the top 3 in 8 national championships, racing for the U.S. team, Team Fuji, World Team, and Saturn Premier. Michael Jones is Director of University Publications at the University of New Hampshire. He lives in Lee, New Hampshire, with his wife, Beth, and their 2 children, Ryan and Meg. Michael Jones, a survivor, a hero, someone everyone in this room can look up to, the winner of this year's George Daly Award, Michael Jones.
Good evening. First, I want to say that I'm really happy to be one of the few Fermi folks here, surrounded by Enfield football players and probably several dozen Coughlin family members back there. Ever since I received the Hall of Fame call, I've been thinking about what I might say tonight. First, I want to say thank you for the recognition. As a distance runner and later a disabled cyclist, I'm not really accustomed to too much attention. We do everything out there on our own. I compete because it's a big part of who I am. I thrive on the competition and I love to be challenged. My running and cycling have helped me overcome life's challenges, as you've just heard. If not for my athletic background, I wouldn't even be standing here tonight. I'm alive because of my fitness. The doctors in Salt Lake City told me that time and time again that my fitness pulled me through my illnesses. Had I been a couch potato, I wouldn't have made it. So if I can impart one little bit of advice, it's never take your fitness or your health for granted. They're really important. I'm a living testament to that. As you've also heard, I have a medical history that reads like a Stephen King horror novel. But guess what? I'm the luckiest guy on earth. Every day when I wake up, I'm thrilled to see the sunrise. I may be having a rough day at work. I might have a fight with a colleague. I'm not riding my bike as much as I want. I can never ride as much as I'd like. But I woke up today, and that's a good thing. I have Ryan and Meg and Beth, and they're back there. And when I think about them every day, my feet don't hurt quite as much. Riding my bike, that's just an added bonus. Doctor said I probably wouldn't be able to ride a bike again, so I went out and proved him wrong. They also said I couldn't race a bike. I couldn't ride, I'd never be able to race. So I said, well, I don't think so. That's probably my second bit of advice. Never take no for an answer. If I had listened to cautious doctors, I might have turned into that couch potato. I took no as a challenge, and it's been a great ride, literally. I've raced all over the country as a disabled cyclist. I've met some of the most amazing people. Some of those people you see on the Olympics this week, those are friends of mine. Marty Nothstein, who won the gold medal the other night, he's a friend of mine. I wouldn't have met him had I not been a disabled cyclist. I've met these great people with and without disabilities. Blind athletes who ride on the back of tandems with other cyclists. I ride with racers who have cerebral palsy and muscular dystrophy, and they're just biding their time until their bodies give up on them. And then I ride with the amputees like myself, and we struggle every day trying to figure out how to connect ourselves to our bicycles. Bicycles, as you know, are designed for people who have all their parts. So I think in a small way, I've helped to dispel some of the misconceptions about people with disabilities. We work hard, we play hard, and we compete at the highest levels. Don't take my word for it. In a few weeks, the Paralympics will be held in Sydney. I hope you can all watch some of the athletes compete in Sydney. I think you'll be impressed. I want to thank you again for this recognition. It means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to my family. Thanks again.
This next group of athletes, quite remarkable. Talking about the 1948 undefeated football team at Enfield High School. Twenty of the 29 living members are here, including former players from as far away as Washington, D.C. and Florida. Guys were over getting their pictures taken, and one of the guys wanted to make sure that the photographer knew that they were all on Medicare. So, I don't think they'll be running the halfback option after the banquet tonight. But It's great to see them all here. Not to get too much in these personal accounts, but I played on an undefeated team in college. And as I see those guys tonight, it chokes me up because I just hope when I'm 52 years removed from the fact, I can be around to hang out with all those guys. And I saw the way they were joking. You know, they come in here, they got gray hair. I'm thinking they're a bunch of old guys. And I listen to them, and it's like they're still in high school. I mean, they're talking about, hey, you're a senior, you're a you know, it's like, he freshman, carry the bag, let's go. It's great. What a list of accomplishments. 7-0, number 1 Class B ranking. You couldn't score on these guys. 5 shutouts in 7 games. They allowed just 3 touchdowns the entire season. They scored 158 points in 1948. They gave up 19. They beat Bloomfield any day. Enfield High that year was one of 4 undefeated, untied teams in the state. And since there was no playoff system back in 1948, they were number 1. Big round of applause for these guys. I'm going to now introduce the team spokesman. Tony Secundo is going to come up and say, I'm told, not a few words, a lot of words. I'm sure there's a lot of stories. Tony.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by saying that we're very pleased. As Nathan has said, we've got a good contingent back here, a good team, and I think we could take on a few people. But I'm very pleased on behalf of the boys, and very pleased that we are standing here. We are here and being recognized. It's a tremendous feeling, honestly. I want to also state that our appearance here and our success really is due to 2 past Hall of Famers, Carl Angelica and Angelo Lamagna. What is amazing about this, too, is that in looking through a scrapbook, which I had kept and has a little dust on it, I tried to come up with some notes. I kind of had a feeling that I was going to end up here at the mic. What is amazing is that Carl Angelica replaced Dottie Whalen in 1947. The following year, well, 1947 is when Carl got involved. He started to institute his formations, his program. Put a lot of emphasis on freshmen and sophomores, and of course, took care of the juniors and seniors at that point. In that 1947 season, won only 3 games. This is our first involvement as seniors. The seniors got involved in that particular period. Won only 3 games. But in 1947, I was told to keep this less than a half hour. But in one of the articles that's in there, I think it's worthwhile to read some information that appeared. Football interest at Enfield High School has been at a pretty low ebb for the past several years, but the situation rapidly is being remedied with Carl Angelica, the former Providence College athlete, as the new head coach. Angelica isn't letting any grass grow under his feet. Angelica's one ambition is to get the proper recognition for Enfield and its athletes, the same as other schools receive. Angelica is making headway. His Enfield boys now have practice suits, as well as game uniforms and other new equipment. The new coach is a hard worker. He knows what the coaching business is all about. Providence College athlete, played 4 years at Providence College in football, as well as basketball and baseball. He also had much experience handling men and boys after spending 4.5 years in the service, coaching Army football, basketball, and baseball. He retired from the Air Corps as a captain. great things aren't being expected from Enfield this season, and this is when they won 3 games. But Angelica has plans for the future, which should pay off. He has a spirited group of boys, that's us. However, it is mighty proud of them and their spirit. The game results for our period of time were mentioned, and I certainly don't want to repeat them. But the closest game we had was 14-12 in West Springfield. It was a real close game, and in looking at the write-ups that I had, there was a fellow in West Springfield named Rudy Adabelli, and I think he went on to play pro football. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game against us, but we still beat him. At Simsbury, the score was 40-0. I'm only picking up highlights. 40-0. In the article that appeared prior to that game, Jack Rook had a bad leg. Jeff Theophilus, who was also here, he had a dislocated shoulder, I believe. And Ralph Serrato had a pulled muscle. These 3 gentlemen are both here. We ended up, as was said, as an undefeated season, but we also had added a game against Warwick, Rhode Island. Warwick, Rhode Island was picked. It was a non-scheduled game. The coach of Warwick, Rhode Island at that time was a fellow by the name of John Rudek. And he was a former coach at Enfield High School. Perhaps Bob Keller would remember him. I think Bob is here. But he was a former coach at Enfield High School in 1927 and 30, through 30. Okay, Bob. I would like to complete this by asking the fellas to come up, and I'm going to name them 2 at a time to speed it up. Ralph Serrato, Jim Deneen. Come on up, guys. Mario Gallo and Ronnie Govan. Jim Deneen, let's see, Bill Jones and Frank Maricchini. Henry Mersick and Joe Nucio. Tom Parakilis and Bob Persano.
Thank you.
Floyd Quinn, Jack Rook. Bob Soko. And Jeff Theophilus. And John Westberg. Since all this news appeared in the paper, I think 2 reporters called me trying to get some kind of info for the newspapers. And invariably, one of the questions was, do you have any outstanding players on your team? And, you know, a half a century, 52 years is a long time. And I knew the backfield. The backfield always makes the newspapers. The backfield really does. And just like the Army, the poor trench guys don't get any glory at all. But the answer I was giving them, I said, you know, I honestly think that we were successful because of the coaching we had. The pride and determination that, this is John Westberg, by the way. The pride and determination that was instilled into us by Coach Angelica really is in trying to highlight players that were really outstanding. And it was my feeling that we were really successful because we had 2 or 3 teams that really were of good quality. One could replace the other. And the other question that was asked is, you know, your players, did they have an offense team and a defense team. And I said, to be honest with you, I think most of us were required to go both ways when necessary. It's not the modern day football. We really worked it. Anybody want to say anything?
Great job, Tony.
Again, thanks a lot. Thank you, Tony. Okay.
Captain Jim Flynn is the Texas.
There's our captain, who is Jim Flynn. After a career in the Air Force, retired to Texas as a sheriff. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here. The one game we lost, I neglected to say, the one game we lost to Warwick, Rhode Island, which was an after-season game, we lost it. My real true feeling was that we lost it because one of our star players, we called him Bomber Wentz, had a bad knee, a bad ankle, I believe it was. And I think he was given a couple shots in the ankle to help him out, but we just couldn't do it. Again, thanks to everyone for being here, and thanks to the Hall of Fame Committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, dinner will now be served, and we'll pick up with the program shortly after dinner.
Our first inductee tonight, I should say second, if you count the 1948 undefeated team. Let's not forget 20 gentlemen who are here from that team. But our next inductee is Joe Basewitz. This is a man who's done it all. He played for championship teams, he's coached championship teams, and now he lays down the law as the assistant principal at Enfield. Joe moved to Enfield in 1955. He played football at Enfield High School under Coach Joe Lamanna. He was named All-League Defensive Team in his junior and senior years. His team won the Suburban Conference Championship his senior year with a 7-0-1 record. Named All-League in basketball. Team went 16-4, won the Valley League Championship. Led him in rebounding, averaged 14 points a game. Played football for 3 years at UConn. In 1973, he entered the Enfield school system as a teacher and coach. And he was named head football coach and JV basketball coach at Enfield High School in 1976. Selected as 1978 High School Football Coach of the Year by the Northern Connecticut chapter of the National Hall of Fame Foundation. Named head football coach at Enrico Fermi back in 1980. Became head football coach in Tolland in 1987 and led that program to the 1992 NCCC Championship and Pequod Conference Championships in 98 and 99. The 1999 team was undefeated in the league with a 10-0 record. And maybe most important, last but not least, Joe Basewitz, named Connecticut State Teacher of the Year in 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Basewitz.
First of all, I'd like to start by thanking the members of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for considering my nomination. You won't believe the number of people that in the last 3 months have come up to me and said, "Joe, have you lost your mind?" Maybe I have, but I really don't think so. Number one, it's so great to be back in Enfield. I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm really looking forward to working with the students of Enfield High School, a school that I really have been proud to tell people that I'm from and to cherish. In thanking the committee, I also have to thank a number of people. You know, I was an all right athlete, but I think as Mr. Secondo mentioned about the 48 team, The teams that I played with were really a collection of good athletes who had some great coaching. And it really wasn't a case where we had a tremendous star, but we had a group of athletes, a group of players that really knew how to work hard together, dedicate themselves. I tell you, one of the proudest things I tell people all the time is the fact that in my senior year, I was on a team that won a championship in football and basketball. And it was because of the athletes and the coaches. Coaches like Joe Lamana. Who also gave me my first opportunity to become a coach and to help and to hopefully extend some of the goals and some of the things that we learn as athletes. And I owe so much to him. I also think and look back at the number of past recipients that have touched my life and helped to make me the person that I am. I remember playing my first basketball games in organized basketball for Angelo Lamagna at good old St. Joe's Grammar School. He had a tremendous influence. I remember playing for Carl Angelica when I was a freshman. Unfortunately, my freshman year, I was a basketball player, and we went and played hockey, ice hockey on a pond right across the street, and I ended up catching a stick in the mouth and losing a couple of front teeth, et cetera, that kind of thing. And Carl convinced me that at that point in my life, I was a basketball player, not a hockey player. I also remember Bill Teed as a coach, a fellow classmate of this year's class. Bill Teed was my freshman. Well, I almost became a freshman baseball player for Bill Teed. Bill Teed showed me and convinced me that I couldn't hit a curveball, and that's why I concentrated on football. And I thank you for that, Bill, because it's been a tremendous run. I also have to thank my family. Unfortunately, you all know I have a twin brother, Bob, who couldn't make it tonight. But I've been real lucky because I always had someone there to help me, to push me, someone I could play catch with, someone that could do those things. And Bob was always there for me. He was probably a tougher competitor than even I was, and he was a guy that always kind of helped me along. My sisters and my parents obviously were a tremendous influence. And I've been very fortunate also in my adult life to have a great partner in life, my wife Jan, and my two children, Sarah and Joe, who I'm really happy that were able to join us today. They are great athletes themselves, and even more importantly in my book, they're great people, and that's all I can really ask. And finally, you know, everything I've been involved with was a team. When I received the State Teacher of the Year award 2 years ago, one of the things I told the students of Tolland High School was that I didn't become a State Teacher of the Year simply because of my ability. Those students and those people helped me become the Teacher of the Year. And it's the same thing here. To receive a recognition and honor like this, it's the people who have touched my life, my family, my friends, my teammates, that I owe this recognition to. And it's for them that I'm accepting this, and I thank you.
Our next inductee was voted one of the 20 greatest high school or college soccer coaches of the 20th century by the Hartford Courant, John Blomstrand. John was raised in Enfield, where he played 4 years of soccer at Enfield High School under Coach Bill Teed. In 1971, John scored 5 goals against Fermi, and in 72, he set the Enfield High School single-season scoring record with 17 goals. John was co-captain of the 1972 team that finished the regular season with a 10-4 record and participated in the CIAC state tournament for the first time. Upon graduating from Enfield High School, John attended UConn, where he was a 4-year letterman playing for the legendary Joe Marone. During his tenure at UConn, the team played Brown University 3 times for the New England Championship in the NCAA Division I tournament. John received the Eric Lund Award as UConn's most improved player his senior year. After graduating from UConn, John had a tryout, cup of coffee with the Detroit Express of the North American Soccer League. Upon his return to Connecticut, John remained active for close to 20 years as a player in the Premier Division of the Connecticut Soccer League and the Shoreline Adult Soccer League. Just couldn't get enough. In 1980, John was named the head soccer coach at E.O. Smith High School in Storrs, Connecticut. Over the next 20 years, John's teams compiled a combined record of 320 wins, only 47 losses and 15 ties, and oh, by the way, they won 5 state titles. The 320 wins places John fourth on the all-time career wins list for Connecticut high school coaches. He trails retired coaches John McVicker of Rocky Hill and Dan Sullivan of Windsor Locks, and active coach Mike Zada of Ram. In 1999, as I said, the Hartford Courant named him as one of the 20th greatest coaches in soccer of the century from Connecticut. Need I say more? Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame inductee, John Blomstrand.
First of all, I just wanted to thank the organizers of this wonderful banquet and the induction committee. I think it's a great thing that they're doing for Enfield to preserve the sporting history of the town and give some people something to rally around. Since I was informed of this induction, I've just thought a lot about my past in Enfield and just how fortunate I was to have parents who moved in and bought a ranch like everybody else in Southwood Acres, and had 35 kids to play with right on my street. And it was a different time. Soccer hadn't come to the suburbs yet, and we didn't need coaches, because all we needed was a playground at the end of the street. We refereed our own games, we coached our own games, we organized our own games, and we played sports pretty much from when we got out of school till it got dark every night. And I really appreciate the value of sports and my friendships in life, and how it's helped me professionally. And I think Enfield was a great environment in those days. I'm very pleased to be inducted with my high school coach, Bill Teed, who really stood up for soccer in those days when he told us constantly it didn't get enough respect, And I'm happy to have Dave Wright here, who was the co-captain at Enfield High School. And if I had 17 goals, I think Dave had 17 assists, because it was really a partnership on that team that with Dave for many years. Happy to see Bob Brummage here, my baseball coach. I'm not being inducted for my baseball playing ability, but it was a lot of fun to play baseball at Enfield High. A lot of us, Walter Kukulka and Rich Fenton and Jack Taylor, all went to UConn and played sports there. I remember watching Joe Basowitz play basketball and football at Enfield High, and it was just a great environment to be in. I'm probably being inducted for my coaching, and I just want to tell you that I'm very proud to be the coach at E.O. Smith. It's a real community effort there. Jim Rayner's here, who's one of the great youth coaches in the town, and the players are very nice, and it's a supportive environment, and it has been a real team effort, and it's something that my players have really done for me more than my coaching has done for them. And lastly, I guess I just wanted to thank my parents who couldn't be here, and my family, Robin, who's here, and my 1-year-old daughter, who doesn't understand why I don't come home until 7 o'clock every night, and Robin, who supports my efforts at E.O. Smith High School to try to enrich the sporting life of about 500 student athletes as the athletic director at that school, and 22 athletes in particular in the fall who I try to help out with the soccer team. Thank you to everyone. It's a great honor.
Our next inductee is Christine Coughlin. Talk about an all-around athlete. Chris would certainly fit that billing. Started in her backyard, playing just about anything that was around. Basketball, football, baseball, you name it. At John F. Kennedy, she played softball as an infielder where she batted in the 370s. At Enfield High School, graduated in 1979. Played field hockey, basketball, and softball, co-captained all the teams. Her and the team's defensive skills were evident in the 1977 season when the field hockey team compiled a 9-5 record. 8 of the 9 wins were shutouts. Chris was a guard on the basketball teams, 76, 77, 78, 77, 78, and the teams qualified for the Connecticut State Tournament. She also played shortstop and third base in softball. Then she went to the University of Massachusetts, where she played softball and field hockey. Not an easy thing to do, to play 2 sports in college. She did it from 1979 to 83. Her softball teams, 1-loss record of 85 and 28. The 1980 team at UMass won the EAIAW title before bowing out in the Nationals. In 1981, she led the softball teams in runs, NRBIs, while compiling a .327 batting average, which was 5th on the team. The 81 softball team boasts the UMass all-time best fielding percentage of .971. I mean, you name it, Chris got it done. Over her career at UMass, the slick fielding third baseman ranks number 10 all-time in assists with 233. She was named All-New England in 1981 and again in 82, and earned first-team Northeast All-American honors in 1982. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Fame inductee, Chris Coughlin.
Thank you very much. My friends already told me to move the microphone down because I'm too short. And I was worried I would need a step stool, but I think I'll be all right. But I just want to say good evening to everybody. And this is truly an unexpected honor for me to be here tonight. I'm flattered that the committee has deemed my athletic career worthy of note. I would especially like to thank Fran Slattery. But without his faith in my accomplishments and determination in securing my nomination, I wouldn't be here tonight. Thank you, Fran, and a heartfelt thanks to the committee for your votes. When I said earlier that this was an unexpected honor, I meant that from the bottom of my heart. As every decent athlete knows, accomplishments don't come without a passion or a love of competition and the game. Neither do they come to an athlete by themselves. This has never been truer than for me. My family, the special coaches that I have had the privilege of working with along the way, and my teammates have all made my career special. Mom, you and Dad had nothing but encouragement for all of us. You made sure we had a hoop in the backyard and plenty of time to improve our skills. Bren, you and John allowed me to tag along when you played baseball, basketball, and football with your friends. You never said I wasn't good enough or that I couldn't play because I was a girl. You allowed me to experience competition at the highest level for our age. Kathy, Moore, and Karen provided me with the high level of backyard competition within a friendly and nurturing environment. And I've undying gratitude to the 3 best coaches an athlete could hope for: Nancy Nealon, Cookie Brummage, and Kathy Gendel. Nancy, you instilled in me a love for the game of field hockey, so deep that it still exists today. Cookie, your encouragement to grow to my fullest potential, learn and experience all that I could about my sport, is with me still as I pursue my new passion, golf. Kathy, to you I owe the greatest debt. Your coaching techniques taught me the importance of mental awareness and toughness. As any good athlete can attest, this is the essence of sport. Transcending complacency in the mundane, constantly seeking perfection. Sue, without your influence and friendship, my initiation into competitive sports would have been delayed. Little did you know that your impassioned plea to get me to play field hockey with you would lead to this level of recognition. And lastly, to my golfing buddies and dear friends, thank you for being here tonight. Your passion for competition and love of the game allows us to enjoy not only a high quality of play, but tons of fun doing it. To each one of you here to support me tonight, you have all shaped the person that I am. Thank you, and I love you.
We obviously have more Hall of Fame inductees. I'm going to turn things over to Tim Jensen, who's on the Hall of Fame committee. Unfortunately, when Mike called me a few months ago to MC this tonight, I forgot about the Olympics and high school football, and I have to work tonight. So I'm expecting you're all going to go home and watch tonight so we can get those ratings up. It's been a great honor tonight. Like I said at the beginning, my first introduction to this town is one of my dearest friends, Mike Whalen. And again, you know, everyone I've met tonight's been fantastic. I'm in awe. I mean, I think every town should have something like this because not only brings recognition, but it brings people together. And I think that's important. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Let's move right along, please. Next Hall of Fame inductee is Mr. Bob Keller. Bob is a lifelong Enfielder who was born here, who was raised here, and he still lives here. Not too many of us can say that. Bob grew up playing sandlot ball, played YMCA track, played for the Murdochs in the Springfield Daily News Sandlot program, town champions every year. Went on to Enfield High School. Bob did something that most people don't do. He didn't play 3 sports, he played 4. 13 varsity letters in 4 sports: football, basketball, baseball, and 4 years of track. You played baseball and track at the same time, and I'd really like to know how you can do that. I'm sure he's going to tell us. As captain of the track team his senior year, he was second place in the 100-yard dash at the Western Mass Open. He then attended a Class D tryout camp in Holyoke, and in those days, a lot of people got to invite to baseball camps. But Bob was good enough to be invited back for 2 more days, which not a lot of people got to do. What he ended up doing was going on to participating in the selective service draft. Went on to Springfield College, become an education major, and while he was there, he played 3 years of varsity football. After college, he became a physical education instructor at the Enfield Junior High School, coaching baseball, basketball, and intramural football. He then was assistant football coach at Enfield High School under Hall of Famer Carl Angelica. He coached freshman football, basketball, and track at both Kosciuszko and John F. Kennedy Junior High Schools. He was coordinator of phys ed, athletics, and intramurals for the Enfield Public Schools for 8 years and then retired. Came out of retirement and became facilitator of athletics for the summer school system for 10 years, retiring this past year. In 1990, he received the Connecticut Association of Athletic Directors Distinguished Service Award and received the National Athletic Association Award for 20 years of service. Ladies and gentlemen, our next inductee, Mr. Bob Keller.
Mr. Jensen, members of the Enfield Hall of Fame and Athletic Hall of Fame Committee, and other inductees, honorees, and friends. Ever since Chairman Mike Cotner called me and told me that I had been selected as a member of this year's class, I was both pleased and honored, first of all, that the committee felt that my background warranted my election to this Hall of Fame. And secondly, because I was honored to be associated with the other members of this class this evening, plus all of the people that have gone along before us. I would be remiss if I didn't take some time to thank all of the people that have helped me along the way. First of all, I thank God for a long life and healthy life, which allowed me to be active in athletics in one form or another for over 65 years. Not quite as long as Tony mentioned, but close. I would also like to thank my parents for starting me at an early age and encouraging me to continue on with athletics, which was my love at the time. Then I met my wife, and she became my love and encouraged me to continue on with athletics and to do the job that I was always wanting to do. She was my biggest fan, my biggest critic, and she kept me on the straight and narrow. And I also want to thank our family for their support over the years. Other people that I feel I owe thanks to are all the coaches that I have worked with or have worked with me over the years, plus the students that I was fortunate enough to work with, many who are already in the Hall of Fame. A fellow like Joe Bezowitz forgot who coached him in freshman basketball. We'll remind him on that one. And then all of the kids that worked with me, the pleasure was mine, and I hope in some small way I was able to help you out. If so, it was well worth the effort. And finally, to the other members of the class, congratulations on a job well done, and those of you that are still actively involved, keep it up. We need more people like you in this country. And for all of you that are here this evening, that are here to honor us, my thanks to all of you, and God bless you.
The next honoree is Joseph Krish. Joe was one of those guys that did everything, and I mean everything. He was one of the outstanding athletes in town in the 1930s and early 1940s. He played baseball, track, basketball in high school, as well as interclass soccer and volleyball in the mid-30s. Because of his outstanding athletic ability, he was offered several scholarships. However, this was the time of the Depression, and instead of pursuing those scholarships, he went to work where everybody else did in town, Bigelow Sanford. Played everything at Bigelow Sanford: baseball, softball, basketball, and even bowling. His baseball team was league champion in 1940. His softball league won several league championships. He played guard on the Bigelow Sanford basketball team, and he was a very high average duckpin bowler. He went on to play semi-pro baseball and basketball for the St. Adalbert's teams, winning several championships with the Springfield PNA basketball team. He played on the 1930s Grays, Thompsonville Grays football team. There was nothing that Joe Krish did not do. Later, he coached the Rotary team, which won the first Little League championship in the early 1950s. He was an announcer for the local boxing tournaments that were held, and he umpired in the semi-pro league and was a basketball referee. Joe was one of the organizers of the Thompsonville Youth Center, and he was a longtime member of the Parks and Playground Commission. Joe is being inducted posthumously this evening. To accept his induction is his son, Joe Krish Jr.
read my speech, so I don't have very much to say here. But I had a great dad. And growing up, he grew up in the 30s, and Enfield at that time was a magnet because of Bigelow Sanford for a whole bunch of immigrants to come to what was then Thompsonville. And so we had all the Polish and the Irish and the French and the Italians move into town. And through all those associations over time, Enfield was a great place to grow up. We had all the ethnic neighborhoods, and all I remember with my dad from day one is always playing sports and him having a great passion for sports. And one of the things that I always remember from him is he loved the Yankees. And I came out of the womb with a Red Sox hat on. And weekends watching the ball games were just something. But he really had a deep concern for kids. As you've heard, he helped put the youth center together. He was one of the first people in the Little League. He coached in the Little League. And I always remember him umpiring. I remember when he was probably too old to still be playing, he went to pitch down in Hazardville, and my mother told him, "Joe, don't go." And they brought him back because he wrecked his knee in a stretcher or something. And she says, "I told you," which is what I heard from her also my whole life. So, but I think the one thing that is really the fondest memory of mine are all the stories I heard. And this goes back into the 30s with guys like Iggy Murawski and Cookie Kukulka and Johnny Jasek and all the old the Polish gang that just sort of hung around and played sports together. And I heard about legendary games, and it was all those stories and all those associations through my father that gave me a great passion for sports. And I think that has served me well through my life. And I think probably over all the years, he's probably touched a lot of people. He met a lot of people in town, and I think he probably did a lot of good things for a lot of people. So on his behalf, my mom and I, thank you.
Next inductee is Peter Lamanna. Peter was born in Bristol, but he was raised in Enfield and played for the Enfield High School football team in 1937, where he played fullback. He first distinguished himself as an all-around athlete at Cathedral High School in Springfield, playing fullback on the football team, where his backfield mate was a pretty well-known football player named Angelo Bertelli. He lettered 3 years in football, was captain for one, made All-City in 1939, and his team was Western Massachusetts champions for 2 years. He also played guard on the basketball team, winning 3 letters. Again, was All-City in basketball in 1939, and the team won the city championship 2 years. Kind of a pattern going here. Played baseball for a year, earned 1 letter, and won, guess what? A city championship. He also participated in track for 3 years. He was captain for 1 year, and for 2 years, he was the Western Massachusetts shot put champion. He then went on to Boston University. At Boston University, he cut out the rest of the stuff, concentrated on football. He earned 3 letters. He was captain-elect and All-American honorable mention. He was captain-elect because he ended up entering the Army. His biggest thrill in college football was in 1942 against Bucknell University when he had a 97-yard touchdown run. As I said, he entered the Army in 1943. In his military service, he was awarded 2 Bronze Stars and 3 Battle Stars in World War II. He played with the 78th Lightning Division football team, was selected for the European Theater All-Star team, and was voted most valuable player in the league. In 1946, he began a 3-year career with the Chicago Rockets of the All-American Football Conference. The All-American Football Conference was eventually merged with the National Football League in 1950. If it hadn't been for injury, he would have been playing in the National Football League. One of his coaches, while he was with Chicago, was Hall of Famer Ernie Nevers, who at one time held the National Football League single-game scoring record. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next inductee for this evening, Mr. Peter Lamont.
First of all, I wish to thank the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame for bestowing upon me this honor and being inducted as a member of this Hall of Fame. And I'd like to introduce the members of my family who are here to share this honor with me. First of all is my wife, my college sweetheart, who will have been married 53 years in December. And my son Charlie and his wife Diane. Charlie flew in from St. Louis to be with us tonight. And of course, most of you know my brother Joe and his wife Wanda. Joe coached the Enfield High School team for 13 years, and in 1968, he won a championship. I like to reminisce a little bit about my formative years in the early 30s. We first started to play touch football using a bean bag. Of course, we had, at that time, it was just prior to getting into the Depression, and no one could afford the cost of a football. Also, there was a men's club in Enfield. We used to take us to the Springfield YMCA, and we'd pay 10 cents and we'd swim for an hour. And I thought that was just great. And also there was a fellow who lived on our street who owned a car, one of the first individuals to own a car. And we used to pay him 10 cents to pay for gas, and he'd take us out to Shady Lake in summers, and we'd have a ball. We'd bring a sandwich and just swim all day long. And finally, as I came here this evening, we went through the Hazardville tobacco plantations where I worked there for 10 cents an hour. Of course, you see, 10 cents went a long way in those days. My first contact with organized sports was with the A.D. Higgins Junior High School, where I was a guard on a team and played for a coach, Leo Nosal. And then from graduating from junior high school, I went on to Enfield and played for Coach Tilly Walker. And I was elected football captain after my second year, but unfortunately I was so anxious to get to college, I had to earn myself a scholarship. And I transferred to Cathedral, a much larger school in the city of Springfield, and I felt I had more opportunities. And I did eventually get a scholarship to Boston University. I played 3 years for Boston University, was elected captain after my junior year, but unfortunately, Uncle Sam called up our ROTC unit and sent us to the European Theater of Operations. And after the war was over, we had occupation duty, and to keep the soldiers busy when there was no fighting, the 7th Army established a football league, of which the 78th Division was a part. And I had joined the 78th Division and played in the 7th Army League. And I was voted the most valuable player, as was mentioned in my biography. At the time that I was just about to get mustered out of the service, I had heard that they were going to form a new football league in Chicago. Was going to be represented in this new league called the All-American Conference. And when I looked up the Chicago entry and found out that they were going to be called Rockets, and one of those coaches was Pat Hanley, my old college coach. So I figured with my most valuable player award and my friendship with Pat Hanley, I stand a pretty good chance of making a ball club. And I wrote to the Chicago Rockets asking for some information as to where they were going to hold their training and when they were going to start. And lo and behold, they not only sent me a contract, but they sent me a $250 check, a signing bonus. Well, I did play 3 years for the Rockets and hurt my knee, and that ended my career. But I did continue on. I got my bachelor's degree from Boston University, and since I was able to go to school on a GI Bill of Rights, I went to Chicago University and earned my Master's of Business Education with a major in personnel management. After my career was over, I also stayed active in the reserves, and I retired in the reserves as a lieutenant colonel. After 38 and a half years with Marshall Field and Company, I decided that was enough. I was going to retire, but then I decided to do a little volunteer work. I volunteered at the Oak Park YMCA, and I also was on the board of directors of the Berwyn Council, Cicero on Aging. And then after I had my required number of years for retirement with Marshall Fields, I decided that was enough. I gave it up, and I decided just to relax. And now, keeping my doctor's appointments straight, playing a little golf, doing a little yard work, keeps me busy. Once again, I wish to thank the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame for bestowing this honor upon me, and I'd like to close in saying I'm sure glad I'm back home again. Thank you.
One more to go. Mr. Bill T. Bill started out by signing with the St. Louis Cardinals, baseball, not football, team in 1949. He played 3 years for the Boston Braves. Yeah, there was a team called the Braves in Boston at one time, before they were in Atlanta. Played 3 years in their farm system, and then interrupted by military service. Went to Springfield College, graduating in 1958, and taught physical education upon his graduation. Moved to Enfield in 1963. Bill was chosen to start a physical education program at Hazardville Memorial School. He's taught at every single junior high school and high school in the town of Enfield since then. In 1970, he began a career as a Major League Baseball scout, starting with the Philadelphia Phillies. He then went on to work for the San Francisco Giants and also for the Baltimore Orioles. Bill has a National League Championship ring from 1989 with San Francisco, American League Championship ring from 1979 from Baltimore. Oh yeah, and in 1983, when he was employed by Baltimore, they won the World Series. He's the only man from Enfield with a World Series ring. In his 24 years as a scout, he had many top choices that were special to him, that were signed. His most prized signee was a kid from Dartmouth in 1987 named Mike Remlinger, who's currently on the Atlanta Braves pitching staff. Bill retired in 1995 after, like I said, teaching physical education everywhere in Enfield. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, having worked in the mid-'80s at JFK with him, every year in October he'd take a week off to go to the World Series. I would fill in for his class as a substitute teacher. The kids hated me. Everybody loves Mr. T. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be a great pleasure to introduce Mr. Bill T.
I got a sheet of paper. There's a saying, they save the best to the end. Where did I see that? Somewhere. Okay. Also, Mr. Keller must be a lot older than I am. But the saying is, the older I get, the better I used to be. Right? So there's always hope. I talked to his son, Billy, and he said that, oh, he's not finished. He's going to get another job. So what's retirement, Mr. Keller? I want to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to become a Hall of Famer. You know, you don't think of these things until you're actually given it the shot that you are going to be a Hall of Fame candidate and recipient. So I want to thank the committee very much for giving me that honor. The second thing, Peter opened the door. I have a huge group over there, and you think that they're all my friends. Well, they're my friends only because I paid for their ticket. That's not true. All right. I have my 5 children here, along with my beautiful wife. My wife has been my secretary, but she's been so good I made her my administrative assistant. So she does all my work, all right? My oldest boy, Mark, lives in Long Meadow, which was a long ride. He was the last one here. His wife, Debbie, came along, and he has 3 children. I have 7 grandchildren, all right? So you talk about being old, Mr. Keller. My second boy is David, who came up from Hopewell Junction, which is part of Fishkill, New York. And my youngest son came in from just outside of Philly, and the 2 of them came up together just to be here for my honor, which I thank. I have 2 lovely daughters. One is Shani, she's a senior at Bay Path College, and Laura, who's my baby, is at Springfield College. We have 4 people that went to Springfield. I went, Mark went, Debbie went, and now we have Laura going there. So Springfield College is well represented. She's a junior there. All right, so in 2 years, we'll be all done with college. Imagine that. You know, I want to congratulate all the people who are being inducted, but I want to thank, first of all, Mr. Keller. We were over in, must have been Windsor Locks or East Granby. I was teaching over East Granby, and Bob came up to me. It was a basketball game. I must have beat him. So he asked me, if I was interested in working in Enfield. Of course, I lived here, so I figured, well, gee, that's better than going over the cow country to East Granby. So in '63, I came over and we worked at Hadsville Memorial, and I came in and I went to Hadsville, Maine, or Grammar, the little rinky-dink school on Main Street. And I walked in, I said, I'm Mr. Teed, I'm here to teach gym. You don't belong here. So I went to Hadsville Memorial. Oh, lo and behold, they had a gym. They had everything else. I said, this is fantastic. And that's when we had the kids with the black jackets and everything else. And so I want you to know that I looked at the year, and it was tough. But I think it was the most rewarding year of all my teaching, because I look forward to trying to reach some of these kids, which I never did. But I really look forward, and I got a lot out of it, all right? So Mr. Angelica was around all the time, so we're going to open up Kosciuszko. So we went over to Kosciuszko. Bob and I took care of the men's side. This is when we had good gym, men and women, all right? You can say I'm not a Title IX, all right? But on the other hand, when we went over there, we got everything started on our coaching part. And second of all, I want to thank Joe Basowitz, because, you know, he used to live right across the street. And he also sided his house the same color as mine, all right? And then he moves, all right? So thank you, Joe. Right? And another one I want to point out is John Bloomstrand. You can't say enough about John. I was a defensive type of coach. I thought, well, if I can hold him down, I might squeak one in and we win. And I was getting beat and everything else. And John was playing center fullback. And I said to John, I said, you know, there's something wrong here. So he said, well, why don't you put me up on center forward? Well, John could run. And so he scored the 17 goals there. We did go on to the tournament, and I honestly feel soccer is pretty big in town. But if it wasn't for John and me, you got to realize that soccer, right, Joe? We had a hard time with soccer, all right? Football. So I had to fight these guys all the time. So with John and I together and the rest of the team, I don't know, John Kakuka, were you were playing with that team or not, all right? But we went to the tournament. Then when we got to 1970 to 1980, 9 out of the 10 years, we ended up going to the state tournament. And one year we went to the semifinal, and that was a good team, but we got beat on a squeaker, which is always a problem. But we had a good bunch of kids, and I want you people to realize that we have, including John, you want to count me, all right? There's 7 people in the Hall of Fame that played for me. And I said to Donnie Whittle, hey, thanks, because of you I'm here. That wasn't his answer. But, you know, we got Don and Johnny, and we got, I can't see anybody else out there that I can see right now. But honestly, these kids played well. I had trouble with Donnie. He was a basketball star. All right? And we're down playing Conard High, and all we had to do is, I don't know, tie or beat them. And we would have won the conference championship. Where's Donnie? He's up shooting a hoop. All right? So then he comes down. Of course, he didn't have what I thought a good game. All right? Well, he ended up tying him. And I think Weathersfield won the championship. Then he goes down to Harvard University, and he becomes a soccer star. All right? If he had only listened. Paul De Silva, a big goaltender. Augie Gush, goaltender. Of course, I always had big goaltenders. All right? And, but I've had, counting myself, 7 people inducted, which I think has been a great thing for the soccer program. And I don't think you people realize that. But I went down to the Hall of Fame, checked them, then I checked the roster, and I feel quite proud that I'm part of this group now with my boys. All right? When I was a kid in junior high, elementary, K to 8, I was in 7th grade, outstanding student, just sitting there reminiscing. I wanted to go to Springfield College, all right? And as a 7th grader, I always dreamt of going to Springfield College. And I went to high school, and you know, I was a star. I didn't have to study, all right? So when the time came, where were the colleges? They were not around. So anyway, I signed my first baseball contract, and you talk about money. Pete was talking about a couple $100. They gave me $2,000, which would make me a pretty good bonus player back in the early days. My brother Dick is here. His daughter Sandy, who Brian Banowski now playing for the Red Sox, if you are a Red Sox fan. He's a catcher in the organization. But Dick was playing, he made $5,000 in the bigs. Now it's what, $109,000? Doing the same job, all right? So times have changed. So I try to figure out, geez, if I got $2,000, I must have been a $40,000 or $50,000 bonus baby, all right? Well, anyway, I started playing. I could hit, my brother couldn't. But what happened was I just couldn't feel right, all right, about playing. My heart wasn't in it, and he was in baseball 50 years. And I go back to my 7th grade where I really dreamt I did want to go to Springfield College. And I went into the service, and what did they give me? They gave me a GI Bill. So I went to Springfield College, no tests, no anything. Come on in, all right? So we had, I don't know how many veterans up there, but we all made it, all right? I don't think one of us took a test, all right? But I graduated, and my first 2 years I went to Long Island, and I was making big bucks down there, $5,700. And I came back to East Granby, and the principal called me in the office at Long Island, and he said, "What are you, crazy?" He says, "You're going back to Connecticut?" He had come from Connecticut. A little rinky-dink town. The first day I went over for an interview, I had to wait because the cows were crossing the road. Right? This is honest truth. So I came back, and 2 years later, I ran into Mr. Keller. And from that time, I've been in Enfield. I worked 32 years over here. And I coach soccer, swimming, wrestling, baseball to junior high level, all right, because I couldn't push Brummage out, all right? And what else did I do? Oh, baseball at the junior high. And, Carol, what's my other? Basketball under Mr. Brummage. This was, can I tell this, Mr. Brummage? We went in there. I'm pass and cut, all right? Work a pick, go for the shot, and he's there. I said to Ronnie Levine, I think it was, I said, "Ronnie, what are we doing tonight?" And he says, "Well, I think it's a 26 set of plays that we've had this week, and I think it might be 5 passes in, stuff like that." I said, "You got to be kidding." Well, I didn't last long with Bob. I was gone. But my heart, I don't think, was in it. But we did have wrestling, too. This is where I ran into Charlie Africano. And I have been thrilled working with Enfield for 32 years. But my wife was asking me, "Do you really love the coaching or what?" I said, "Sometimes I would rather do a good day of gym teaching. And then I go down and coach, and it just wasn't with it." So in 1980, I had started scouting baseball in 1970. In 1980, my son Billy, John, who scored 17 goals in one period, or 1 year, and he also has 39 goals for a total, which I don't think you got, because he didn't start until late. But it might be still the town record, 39. I'm not sure. All right, but I said to her, I really think that, sometimes if by teaching a good class meant more to me than the coaching. So I got out of the coaching part, and I went to scouting. I scouted for 23, 24 years, whatever it was, all right? My brother Dick gave me the start. I worked with the Philadelphia Phillies, and then all of a sudden I ran into Buddy Kerr. Now, some of you old-time people, shortstop for the Giants. He put me on for New England, and it was tough because I had to travel and plus teach. All right, so I couldn't get out until Q3 or something like that, and then you go rushing to a place to watch a kid play, and then all of a sudden the Bureau came in, and I lost my job with the Giants, and I got picked up by the Baltimore Orioles, which I thought was fantastic. At least they knew I was alive. They would call me, they would do this, they'd take me here, take me there, fly me down to Tampa for a meeting, and I had school, didn't I? But I had to cut a couple days out. But I had to fly down there. But I was somebody, and they would talk to me. And we had 2 World Series, 1979. Tommy Lasorda and my brother Dick are close buddies. And we had Shana, Shana, will you stand up now, please? Come on, stand up. All right? She was 1 year old. All right? Tommy didn't care. I told him, I'm Dick Teed's brother. Oh, great. Let me see the daughter. So he's around. This is Tommy Lasorda. So I say to Shana, you remember that? She doesn't, all right? But that was in '79, and we got a ring, and it's not a ring like this here, but it was like a college ring, because they were so ticked off that they weren't even going to give us a ring. We were up 3-1 over Pittsburgh, and we had Palmer and Flanagan and someone else. We couldn't lose. Well, we did, all right? So as far as they were concerned, we were not even going to get rings. So they gave us a ring with an opal stone and a print, where they dig it in, everything else. And we were lucky to get that. So in '83, we go back for another World Series, and we become world champions. We played Philadelphia. And, you know, if you've never been to the World Series, they wine and dine you. They have food before you go, and then you watch the ball game, then you have food after the game because they clean out the parking lot and you just drive home. And my wife has been blessed because she went to all three, all right? She didn't realize that I was a big shot, see? So she, I'm joking, all right? But and in '83, we had the World Series, and it meant an awful lot. But then I went back with the Giants, and we went to the '89 Earthquake World Series. And I can remember I took a week off, all right, so you could work, all right? Thank you. And Jim Mahoney says, "What are you doing? I can't give you 5 days off. I can give you 4. I said, "Forget it, I'm going." He says, "You're crazy?" I gave up a week's pay to go out to the Earthquake World Series. And I don't know how many people have been in an earthquake, but we had no knowledge of an earthquake. And we sat there in a big tent, and we were shaking and everything else, and we had no idea what it is. So we quickly get out, and that was the World Series for us. And I called Mitzi, the secretary, and I said, "I'm coming back Friday." "For what? Stay there." She didn't admit, I guess they liked you. But they like paying the salary, all right? But that was the last one, all right? But it's the Earthquake. We've got a big bat that's a signature of everything, and it has Earthquake right on it, and I think it's going to be worth a lot of money. Plus, I've got a ring through that, too. And the ring is like this one. This is small diamonds, and the other one is diamond chips, so it's a different. But they were just the National League champions. This was a world's champion, all right? I want to cut it off now, but I do want... Everybody wants me to talk. Peter, don't you want me to talk? I want to thank the committee again. And, you know, I think Mr. Keller pointed this out. You know, you don't realize the beauty part of living in Enfield, where you have all this stuff going on, that you can have a Hall of Fame, and you can be somebody. You can have a great meeting like this. And only in Enfield. We did have something in Southington, but it's strictly baseball. All right? But this is all around. So I really want to thank the people again that I'm finished.
And to expand on what Bill was... No. Thank you, Bill. Before we wrap up for the evening, this is the 5th year of the Hall of Fame. This is the 5th induction class. In the back of your program is a list of all the previous inductees and photos from the first 4 years of the Hall of Fame. We're privileged tonight to have 9 of the previous inductees here with us, and I would like for them, as their name is called, to please rise and garner the acknowledgement that they so truly deserve. Starting with the charter class of 1996, Miss Cookie Brummage. Iggy Morosky. And way in the back, Leah Secondo. From the class of 1997, we have Big Paul Da Silva. Mr. Edmund Kukulka, Ms. Amy Romano, and Mr. Don Whittle. From the class of 1998, Mr. Franz Slattery. And from last year's group, Mr. Howie Brummage. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to Mr. Len Sparks of the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame for some closing remarks.
Well, it's kind of tough to come in as the closer. I feel like the closer in baseball. You know, you've had the starting pitcher, the reliever, now the closer who has to come in when they're winning and don't mess up and leave on a positive note. So, anyway, I'd like to say a little bit about the Hall of Fame. I've been a committee member since the first meeting, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to see all the biographies and vote in the people who are receiving the honors in this tonight and the other previous years. I think what the Hall of Fame is all about, when I thought about it, was a few years back, my father and my teenage son and myself went to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And one thing that struck me there, if anybody's been there, there's a lobby and they have video monitors there, and they play old games or things. And what they were playing was Abbott and Costello's Who's on First. And everybody's familiar with that. But when I looked at the group that was there were older people, grandparents, their son or daughter, and their son or daughter, and everybody was watching this video, and everybody was cracking up. There was that common thing, that common ground that brought everybody together. And that carried through in the hall, because the grandfathers would talk about the old players, and kids would listen, and it was all a big connection. So the Enfield Athletic Hall of Fame is a common ground in the town of Enfield, as we've seen tonight with the inductees and the connection with their coaches, their students, the 1948 football team. It's great to hear stories like that. So that's what we're all about. And if anybody wants to know more about the Hall of Fame, wants to become part of the Hall of Fame, you can contact any of the committee members. It's not a closed organization, and we're always open for new members. I'd like to introduce briefly the committee members, if they'd stand when I call them out. It's Howie Brummage, Chris Kuchar, Stan Dynia, Sam Fiore, Nancy Giglione. Jigs, she said I'd call her Jigs. Tim Jensen, Mary Keller, Bruce McKay, Carl Newshafer, Tom Nolan, Amy Romano, Fran Slattery, and Jerry Wigan. I'd also like to give a special thanks, too, to Lou Fiore, who has been our town liaison. He's a member of the town council, and he keeps us in check with the town and has been a part of our committee. The town coming into the 20th century does have a website, and I won't give you the name of it, but it is in your bulletin. And there's a lot of pictures from previous classes. The biographies are out there, and I encourage you to look it up. Like to thank the Radisson for the facilities this evening and the meal. For Cox Cable in videotaping the event. And all our sponsors that have supported the Hall of Fame, and they're in your booklet, and I encourage you to look at those sponsors also. And next, as the closing to the evening, I'd like to introduce the slideshow. It's a slideshow that was put together by Stan Dynia with help of Amy Romano and Nancy, who provided the music, so you can see them. But thank you, everyone, for coming, and enjoy the show.